Ethan McAllister watched the woman collapse in the frozen mud outside Kent's general store. Blood on her knees. Hunger carved into her face. The town stepped over her like she was already dead. His daughter's hand tightened in his. "Papa, why won't anybody help her?" Because mercy was expensive in Silver Creek, and this woman had been convicted without trial. He'd buried his wife 3 winters ago, knew what it meant to be judged for things beyond your control. He dismounted slowly, pulled the bread from his saddlebag, and made a choice that would cost him everything. Before we begin, if you're watching from anywhere in this world, drop a comment with your city name. I want to see how far this story travels. And, if stories of second chances and stubborn love speak to your heart, subscribe and stay until the very end. You won't regret it. February 1878, Silver Creek, Colorado Territory. Cold bit through wool like teeth through flesh. Ethan McAllister's wagon rattled down the frozen main street, his son Nathaniel beside him, daughter Rosie wrapped in blankets behind. The boy hadn't spoken in 3 days, hadn't forgiven him yet for the crime of surviving when Mama didn't. "Need flour," Ethan said. "Salt, lamp oil." Nate stared straight ahead. The town looked meaner in winter. Buildings hunched against the wind. Smoke rose thin and gray from chimneys. Silver Creek had been dying since the mines started running dry. Now it survived on cattle timber and cruelty. Ethan pulled the wagon to a stop outside Kent's general store. That's when he saw her. A woman knelt in the mud near the store entrance. Hands outstretched, dress torn at the hem, face hollowed out by hunger. She wasn't begging aloud, just waiting, hoping, freezing. Townspeople walked past like she was furniture. Mrs. Adelaide Pritchard, the banker's wife, lifted her skirts with exaggerated disgust. "Shameful display." Rosie scrambled to the front of the wagon. "Papa, that lady's hurt." "Hush now," Ethan said, but his jaw tightened. The woman's eyes tracked movement but didn't follow faces. She'd learned not to expect kindness. Ethan recognized that look. He'd worn it himself the day he came home from the war to find his farm burned, his parents dead. Nothing left but ash and a letter saying, "Welcome home, soldier." Warren Kent stepped out of the store, arms crossed over his barrel chest. "Get on, Mrs. Hartwell. You're scaring customers." The woman flinched but didn't move. "I said move." She tried to stand. Her legs buckled. She caught herself on the hitching post, knuckles white. "Papa?" Rosie's voice cracked. Ethan dismounted. Boots hit frozen ground hard. He pulled a loaf of bread from his saddlebag meant for his kids and walked toward the woman. She looked up. Fear flashed across her face first, then confusion. He set the bread beside her boot. "Ain't charity, ma'am. Just settling a debt." Her lips moved. "I can't pay you back." "Didn't ask you to." She stared at the bread like it might disappear. Then her hands closed around it, and something fierce lit behind her eyes. Hunger, yes, but also defiance. She was starving, but she wasn't broken. Ethan turned back toward the store. Warren Kent stood in the doorway, face twisted. "You just fed a thief, McAllister." "That's so." Abigail Hartwell, married Thomas Hartwell, the blacksmith. He died last fall. His family says she stole their savings and ran. Been living rough ever since. Ethan glanced back. The woman Abigail had torn a piece of bread and was eating slowly, deliberately. Not gobbling like an animal, savoring like a human who remembered what it meant to have dignity. "She got a trial?" Ethan asked. Warren snorted. "Don't need a trial when everyone knows the truth." "Gee. Everyone knows or everyone assumes. Same difference out here." Ethan stepped past him into the store. The air smelled of tobacco leather and wood smoke. Shelves lined with canned goods, bolts of cloth tools. Behind the counter, Warren's son James counted coins with slow deliberation. "Flour," Ethan said. 20 pounds. Salt. Lamp oil. James didn't move. That woman outside. You know what she is? A widow. A thief. Ethan's hands clenched. His daughter had followed him inside, holding his coat. Rosie looked up at James with wide, uncomprehending eyes. She's hungry. She's a liar, James said. Took everything the Hartwells had and disappeared. Old man Hartwell nearly lost his house. Old man Hartwell runs a forge, Ethan said evenly. Makes good money. How'd one woman take enough to ruin him? James's mouth opened. Closed. No answer. The flower, Ethan repeated. Warren came inside, face red. You defending her, McAllister? I'm buying supplies. Folks will talk. Folks always talk. Behind him, the door creaked open. Abigail stepped inside, shoulders straight, despite the hunger carving shadows into her face. Every eye turned. I'd like to settle something, she said. Her voice was steady, clear, not the voice of a beaten woman. Mr. Kent, you said I'm scaring customers. I apologize, but I haven't eaten in 4 days and I've committed no crime except being inconvenient. Warren's jaw worked. You stole from the Hartwells. Thomas's father claimed I did. He's a liar. Gasps rippled through the store. You didn't call a man a liar in public. Not unless you wanted blood. Careful girl, Warren said. I'm not a girl. I'm 28 years old and I've buried a husband. Thomas gave me that money. It was mine legally. His father wanted it back when Thomas died, and when I wouldn't hand it over, he told the town I stole it. Why should we believe you? James asked. Because Thomas wrote it in his will. A will his father burned the day of the funeral. Silence fell heavy as snow. Ethan studied her. She stood tall, despite exhaustion, met every eye without flinching. Either she was telling the truth, or she was the best liar he'd ever seen. Where's the money now? Warren asked. Gone. I spent it on Thomas's medical bills. Dr. Ferguson can confirm it. Warren glanced at his son. Something passed between them. Doubt maybe, or just inconvenience. Truth was messy. Gossip was easy. Even if that's true, Warren said slowly, you're still trouble. A woman alone, no family, no prospects. Decent folks don't want that kind around. Decent folks? Abigail repeated, voice flat. Right. She turned to leave. Ethan heard his own voice before his brain caught up. I need a bookkeeper. Everyone stared. My ranch accounts are a mess, Ethan continued. My wife used to handle them. Since she passed, I've been drowning in paperwork. You read and write, Mrs. Hartwell. Abigail turned slowly. Yes. Can you figure numbers? Better than most men. Then I'm offering you work. Room and board in exchange for keeping my books straight. Fair trade. Her eyes narrowed. Why? Because I need help and you need a place. Seems simple. Nothing's simple. Then call it complicated. Do you want the job or not? She studied him for a long moment. Looking for the trap, the angle, the price she'd have to pay later. Finally, she nodded. I accept. Warren Kent's face went purple. McAllister, you're making a mistake. Been making those my whole life, Ethan said. One more won't kill me. He paid for his supplies, loaded them into the wagon. Abigail climbed into the back beside Rosie. Nate sat rigid in front, jaw clenched. As they rolled out of town, Ethan glanced back. Warren Kent stood in the doorway, arms crossed, already composing the gossip he'd spread, already sharpening the knives. Let him. Winter was coming, and talk wouldn't keep anyone warm. The ride to the ranch took 2 hours. Mountains rose purple in the distance, peaks white with snow. Wind cut across open country, carrying the smell of pine and coming storms. Abigail sat in silence, clutching her small bundle, everything she owned. She watched the landscape with sharp eyes, memorizing landmarks. Escape routes. just in case. Rosie chattered beside her. We got chickens, and a cow named Buttercup, and a cat, but she don't like nobody except Papa. Abigail nodded, careful not to intrude. Nate sat up front, carving a stick with his pocket knife. He didn't look back once. When the ranch came into view, Abigail's chest tightened. It was small, but solid. Log cabin with a stone chimney. Barn and forge beside it. Corrals stretching toward the tree line. A garden plot lay dormant under frost. It looked like home. That's what scared her most. Ethan helped her down from the wagon. I'll show you around. Inside the cabin was simple. Stone hearth on one wall, cast iron stove beside it. A table, 4 chairs, 2 narrow beds in the loft, and on the wall carefully hung a woman's shawl, blue wool with embroidered edges, untouched, sacred. Loft's yours, Ethan said quietly. Stove stays warm through the night. Well's 20 paces out, privy's past the barn. Nate and Rosie climbed the ladder, showing her the space. You'll sleep between us, Rosie said, so you won't be scared. Abigail's throat closed. She hadn't been protected in so long. That evening she set the table, 5 plates, 1 for Ethan, 1 for each child, 1 for herself, and 1 for the ghost. Ethan noticed but said nothing. They ate stew in silence, spoons scraping tin. Outside, wind howled through the trees. After supper, Abigail washed dishes while Ethan banked the fire. She paused at the base of the loft ladder. I won't be trouble, Mr. McAllister. He looked up from the hearth. You don't have to be afraid here. She wanted to believe him, but fear had kept her alive this long. She climbed the ladder, pulled a thin blanket to her chin, and listened to the wind. Snow piled against the door. Winter had arrived. Leaving now meant death. She'd crossed the threshold. There was no going back. Morning came cold and gray. Abigail woke before dawn, climbed down the ladder in silence. The cabin was dark except for embers glowing in the hearth. She stirred the fire, added wood, found flour, water, salt, started bread dough rising, moved quietly, efficiently. Old habits. Ethan came downstairs 20 minutes later, stopped when he saw the fire burning bright, the smell of bread filling the cabin. You didn't have to do that. You said I work for room and board. I'm working. He studied her. Fair enough. They ate breakfast in silence. Rosie woke cheerful, chattering about the snow. Nate came down last, eyes red. He looked at Abigail once, then away. After breakfast, Ethan led her to the small office off the main room. Papers covered the desk in chaotic piles. Ledgers lay open, half-filled. Receipts scattered everywhere. Told you it was a mess, he said. Abigail sat down, pulled the nearest ledger toward her, flipped through pages. Her face went tight. This is bad. How bad? You're losing money on every horse you sell. Your feed costs are double what they should be. And someone's been skimming. Ethan's jaw clenched. Who? Can't tell yet. But the numbers don't lie. She looked up. How long since your wife died? 3 years. Who's been keeping books since then? Hired hand. Old Charlie. He's been with me since before the war. Abigail flipped through more pages, stopped. Her finger traced a column of numbers. Charlie's taking 5% off the top of every transaction. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. You sure? I'm sure. He stood there, breathing hard. Betrayal was a knife in the back, especially when it came from family. Charlie had been at his wedding, held Nate when he was born. What do I do? He asked quietly. Confront him, today, before he knows I've seen the books. Ethan nodded once, walked out. Abigail listened to his boots cross the yard, heard voices rise in the barn, muffled at first, then sharp, angry. 20 minutes later, Ethan came back inside alone. He's gone, Ethan said. Packed his things and rode out. Did he admit it? Didn't have to. I saw it in his face. Abigail looked down at the ledgers. "You're going to need help running this place. One man can't do it alone." "I know. I can help with the books, but the forge, the horses, that's beyond me." "I'll manage." She studied him, saw the weight pressing down on his shoulders. Widower, single father, betrayed by someone he trusted. And now he'd taken in a stranger everyone in town called a thief. "Why did you really help me?" she asked quietly. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he pulled out a chair, sat across from her. "My wife died in childbirth. Baby didn't make it either. I was 20 miles away buying supplies. Came home and found her bleeding out. Midwife said if I'd been there, maybe I could have done something." Abigail's breath caught. "I blamed myself. Still do some days. When I saw you kneeling in that dirt, I saw myself. And I thought maybe, this time, I could do something that mattered." She didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. Just reached across the table and rested her hand near his. Not touching, but close. He looked at her hand, then at her face. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded once, stood, walked back outside. Abigail sat alone in the office, surrounded by ledgers and lies, and the ghost of a woman who'd loved this man first. She had no illusions. This was temporary. She'd fix the books, save enough money, and move on before she got too attached. Before she started hoping for things that didn't belong to her. But for now, she had a roof, food, work that mattered. It was more than she'd had in 6 months. She pulled the next ledger toward her and got to work. 1 week passed, then 2. A rhythm emerged. Abigail rose before dawn, started the fire, made bread, worked on the books. By the time Ethan came in from the barn, breakfast was ready. They ate together. Rosie chattered. Nate stayed silent. After breakfast, Abigail cleaned the cabin, mended clothes, prepared lessons for the children. Ethan had admitted neither could read well. Abigail had been educated rare for a woman, rarer still for a blacksmith's wife. She'd taught herself from her father's books before he died. Now she taught Rosie letters by the window. The girl soaked up knowledge like dry earth soaked up rain. Nate refused to participate. Sat in the corner carving sticks with his knife. "You should learn too," Abigail said gently. "Don't need to. Reading's important." "Mama couldn't read. She did fine." Abigail didn't push, but she left the books open where he could see them. Afternoons she worked beside Ethan, mending fences, feeding horses, mucking stalls. He didn't ask her to. She just did it, proving her worth every day. They worked in easy silence. He anticipated her movements. She anticipated his, like they'd been working together for years instead of weeks. One afternoon they replaced a rotted section of corral fence. Abigail handed him nails without asking, held boards steady while he hammered. "You're good at this," he said. "Had to be. Thomas was sick the last year. I did most of the work." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I learned I'm stronger than I thought." He glanced at her. Wind tugged at her hair. Color had returned to her cheeks. She looked less like a woman starving, more like a woman surviving. "You got grit," he said. "Had to. Nobody else was going to save me." That evening she set 4 plates at the table. The ghost's plate stayed in the cupboard. Ethan noticed. His hand brushed hers as he reached for the salt. She didn't pull away. 3 weeks after Abigail arrived, the first real blizzard hit. Snow piled against the door. Wind rattled the shutters. The world disappeared into white. They were trapped for 3 days. Abigail rationed supplies carefully, made stew stretch, baked bread in smaller portions, kept the fire burning steady. Ethan chopped wood, fed the horses, checked the barn twice a day to make sure nothing collapsed under snow. Nate and Rosie played quietly in the loft, old enough to sense tension, young enough not to name it. On the second night, when the children finally slept, Ethan and Abigail sat by the fire. The only sounds were crackling logs and wind's endless howl. "Can I ask you something?" Abigail said softly. "Go ahead." "Do you think people can be cursed?" He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Thomas's family said I was cursed, that God took him because I was wicked, that everyone I love dies." "That's a damned lie." "Is it?" Her voice broke. "My parents died when I was 15. Thomas died after 5 years of marriage. Everyone I've ever loved has left me." Ethan leaned forward. "You ain't cursed, Abigail. You survived. That's strength, not sin." "Then why does it hurt so much?" "Because you're still alive. Pain means you're healing." She looked at him. Really looked. Saw the grief carved into the lines around his eyes, the guilt he carried like a yoke. "We both got ghosts," she whispered. "Yeah, but maybe we don't have to carry them alone." Her hand rested on the bench between them. Slowly, carefully, his fingers brushed hers. She didn't pull away. They sat like that until the fire burned low. Two wounded souls finding warmth in each other's presence. When Abigail finally climbed to the loft, she looked back once. Ethan stood by the fire watching her. Neither spoke, but something had changed. The storm outside was fierce. The storm inside had just begun. The blizzard broke on the 4th day. Sunlight cut through clouds like a blade through fabric, sharp and cold. Ethan shoveled snow from the door while Abigail fed the horses. The world looked new under all that white, clean, deceptive. Rosie burst from the cabin laughing. She threw herself into a snowdrift, arms spread wide. "Look, Papa, I'm making angels." Nate followed slower. He stood on the porch watching his sister. Something in his face had softened. Not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of it. Abigail came from the barn, hay in her hair. She stopped when she saw Rosie. A smile touched her lips. Small, real. "Come make one with me," Rosie called. Abigail glanced at Ethan. He nodded. She waded into the snow, knelt beside Rosie. Let the girl show her how to move her arms, how to stand up without ruining the shape. Their laughter carried across the frozen yard. Nate watched from the porch. His jaw tightened. Then he turned and went back inside. Ethan found him sitting by the fire carving. "She's just being nice to Rosie," Nate said without looking up. "Don't mean nothing." "You think she's pretending?" "I think people leave. They always leave." Ethan sat beside his son. The boy was 10 but carried weight like a grown man. Too much weight for such young shoulders. "Your mama didn't want to leave," Ethan said quietly. "But she did." "She died, Nate. That's different." "Feels the same to me." Outside, Rosie's laughter rang bright and clear. Abigail said something that made the girl giggle harder. "You're scared," Ethan said. Nate's knife stilled. "I ain't scared of nothing." "You're scared if you let yourself care about her, she'll leave too. And you'll hurt again." The boy's hands trembled. "What if she does leave? Then we'll hurt. But shutting people out don't stop the pain, son. It just makes you lonely while you wait for it." Nate didn't answer, just kept carving. But his eyes were wet. Ethan stood, rested a hand on his son's shoulder. "Your mama would want you to be happy. She'd want all of us to be happy." "How do you know?" "Because she loved us more than anything. And love don't end just because somebody dies." He left Nate by the fire and went back outside. Abigail was teaching Rosie how to pack snow tight for a snowman. Their heads bent close together. Dark hair and light. Similar, but different. "She's good with her," Abigail said when she noticed him watching. "She's good with you. For now." Abigail stood, brushed snow from her skirt. "Children are forgiving, until they're not. Nate just needs time. Time won't change the fact that I'm not his mother. Nobody's asking you to be." She looked at him then, really looked. "What are you asking me to be, Ethan?" He didn't have an answer. Or maybe he did, but wasn't ready to say it out loud. Before he could respond, Rosie shrieked, "Look, riders coming!" 3 horses appeared on the road, moving fast, kicking up snow. Ethan's hand dropped to his hip. No gun. He'd left it inside. "Get in the house," he said. "Who is it?" Abigail asked. "Don't know, but folks don't ride hard in winter unless it's trouble." The riders pulled up at the fence. 3 men. Ethan recognized 2. Franklin Hartwell, Thomas's father. Gray beard, hard eyes. Beside him, his son David. And a 3rd man Ethan didn't know. Tall. Badge on his chest. "That's the new deputy," Abigail whispered. "Marcus Webb." Franklin dismounted, stood with his hands on his hips, breath steaming in the cold air. "McAllister, we need to talk." "Then talk. About your guest." Franklin's eyes found Abigail. "That woman's a thief. She's coming back to town to face charges." Abigail went rigid beside Ethan. "What charges?" Ethan asked. "Theft. Fraud. Taking money that didn't belong to her. Money her husband gave her legally. So she says. But Thomas ain't here to confirm it. Is he convenient?" The deputy stepped forward. Young. Maybe 25. Trying too hard to look official. "Mrs. Hartwell, you're wanted for questioning. You need to come with us." "Questioning or arrest?" Ethan asked. "Depends on what she says." "She's not going anywhere." Franklin's face darkened. "You harboring a criminal, McAllister?" "I'm protecting a woman who's been accused without evidence." "We got evidence. David here will testify she took $200 from the family safe." David nodded, but his eyes didn't meet Ethan's. $200, Ethan repeated. "That what this is about? You want money. We want justice. You want revenge. There's a difference." The deputy shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. McAllister, I don't want trouble, but if you're interfering with an investigation..." "There's no investigation. There's just an old man who wants to blame somebody for his son's death." Franklin took a step forward. "You calling me a liar?" "I'm saying grief makes men do stupid things. I know. I've done plenty." "This ain't about grief. This is about theft." Abigail's voice cut through the cold air. "I'll go." Everyone turned. "I'll go," she repeated, chin up, back straight. "If you want to question me, question me. I've got nothing to hide." "Abigail," Ethan started. "I won't run. I'm tired of running." Franklin smiled. "Ugly thing." "Smart woman." "But," Abigail continued, "I want a lawyer present, and I want the questioning done public, in front of the town council, so everyone can hear both sides." The smile faded from Franklin's face. "That's her right," the deputy said reluctantly. "Territory law says she can request a public hearing." "Fine," Franklin spat. "Council meets Saturday. You be there." He mounted his horse, yanked the reins hard. The 3 men rode off, snow flying from their horses' hooves. Ethan turned to Abigail. "Why did you agree to that?" "Because I'm tired of being afraid. If I run, I'm guilty. If I face them, at least I have a chance." "What if they don't give you a fair hearing?" "Then at least I'll know I tried." She walked back into the house. Rosie followed, silent for once. Nate stood in the doorway watching. Ethan stood in the yard alone, staring at the tracks in the snow, watching them disappear into the distance. Saturday was 3 days away. 3 days to prepare for a fight they couldn't win with fists. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay in his bed downstairs listening to the house settle. Abigail moved in the loft above, restless. Probably not sleeping either. He got up, added wood to the fire, stood there in his undershirt and trousers staring at the flames. Footsteps on the ladder. Abigail came down wrapped in a blanket, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger, more vulnerable. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "No." She sat on the bench near the hearth. He sat beside her, close enough to feel her warmth, but not touching. "I'm sorry," she said. "I brought trouble to your door." "You didn't bring nothing I couldn't handle." "They'll come after you too now, for helping me." "Let them." She turned to look at him. "Why are you doing this? Really, I'm nobody. I'm nothing to you." "You're not nothing." "Then what am I?" The question hung between them like smoke. He could tell her the truth, that she was the first person in 3 years who made him feel something other than guilt, that her presence in his house had chased away some of the ghosts, that when she smiled at his daughter, something in his chest loosened. Instead, he said, "You're someone who deserves a fair chance." Disappointment flickered across her face. Quick. Gone. "A fair chance," she repeated. "Right." She stood to go back upstairs. "Abigail." She stopped, didn't turn around. "I'm not good with words," he said. "Never have been. My wife used to say I talked less than the horses, but I meant what I said that day in town. You work, you eat. Fair trade. That ain't changed. And after Saturday, if they find me guilty, they won't. But if they do—" He stood cross to her, close enough now that he could smell soap and wood smoke in her hair. "Then we'll figure it out. Together." She looked up at him, searching his face for lies, for traps, for the price she'd have to pay. "Why?" she whispered. "Because I'm tired of being alone. And I think you are too." Her breath caught. For a moment he thought she might lean into him, might let herself believe. Instead, she stepped back. "Good night, Ethan." She climbed the ladder. He heard her settle into bed, heard the children breathing deep and even. He went back to his own bed, lay there staring at the ceiling, knowing sleep wouldn't come, knowing he'd just said too much and not enough. Friday came cold and gray, one day before the hearing. Ethan rode to town alone, leaving Abigail with the children. He needed information, needed to understand what they were walking into. He stopped first at Doc Ferguson's office. The old man was stitching up a ranch hand who'd cut his arm on barbed wire. "Need a word, Doc." Ferguson glanced up, then back at his patient. 5 minutes. Ethan waited. When the ranch hand left, he closed the door. "Thomas Hartwell. When he died, who paid his medical bills?" Ferguson's face went neutral. "Careful." "Why you asking?" "Because his widow says she paid them. His family says she stole the money." The doctor was silent for a long moment. Then he opened a drawer, pulled out a ledger, flipped through pages. "Mrs. Hartwell paid every bill in full, cash, over the course of 6 months while her husband was dying." "How much?" $187. Ethan's jaw clenched. "You got records?" "Right here." "Will you testify to that tomorrow?" Ferguson closed the ledger. "I'm a Dr. McAllister. I don't take sides." "This ain't about sides. It's about truth. Truth has a way of getting men killed in this town. So does cowardice." The doctor's face hardened. "You calling me a coward?" "I'm asking you to do what's right." Ferguson stood, walked to the window, stared out at the street. "Franklin Hartwell's got friends. The banker, the mayor, half the council. And Mrs. Hartwell's got nobody. That about right. She's got you, apparently. That enough?" "No." Ferguson turned. "But I'll testify anyway, because my wife would haunt me if I didn't." Ethan held out his hand. Ferguson shook it. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You're about to make enemies of some powerful men." "Already got enemies. Few more won't matter." He left the doctor's office, walked 3 doors down to the schoolhouse. Found Miss Sarah Brennan inside correcting papers. She was 30, unmarried, with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. She'd taught Ethan's wife to read before they married. "Mr. McAllister." She stood. "What brings you here?" "Need to ask about Mrs. Hartwell. You knew her." "I did. Thomas brought her to the school a few times. She wanted to learn more. Eager mind." "What kind of woman was she?" Sarah's expression softened. honest, kind, smart as a whip. Thomas adored her. His family says she stole from them. His family's lying. No hesitation, no doubt. How can you be sure? Because I was there the day Thomas died. I sat with Abigail while he passed. He told both of us that the money in the house was hers. Said his father would try to take it and she should protect it. Ethan's heart beat faster. You heard him say that. With my own ears. Will you testify? Sarah hesitated. You know what that'll cost me, the Hartwells fund this school. If I speak against them, then you'll be out of a job. I know. I'm asking anyway. She looked at her desk, at the papers covered in children's handwriting, at the life she'd built here. Miss Brennan, Ethan said quietly, you taught my wife to read. She used to say you gave her a gift nobody could take away. Said you were the bravest woman she'd ever met. Sarah's eyes filled. Elizabeth was special. She was. And she'd tell you the same thing I'm telling you now. Silence protects the powerful. Truth protects the powerless. Sarah wiped her eyes. Nodded. I'll testify. Thank you. He left the schoolhouse, walked toward the saloon. Stopped. Changed direction. Headed to the church instead. Reverend Tobias Marsh was inside, sweeping between pews. Old man. White hair. Kind eyes. Ethan, don't see you here often. Been busy? Too busy for God? Maybe. Or maybe God's too busy for me. Marsh smiled. He's never too busy. You are. Ethan sat in a pew. The Reverend sat beside him. I need your help, Ethan said. I'm listening. There's a woman, a widow. She's been accused of theft by her dead husband's family. Tomorrow there's a hearing. I think they're lying and I think she's innocent. But I'm just one man. I need people to stand with her. Why you? Because I know what it's like to be judged for things beyond your control. Marsh nodded slowly. And you think I can help? You got influence. People listen to you. Some people, not all. I'll take some. The Reverend was quiet for a long time. Then he stood, walked to the altar, stared at the cross hanging above it. Your wife used to sit right here, he said, pointing to the front pew. Every Sunday, no matter the weather, she had faith like I've never seen. I know. She'd want you to help this woman. I know that too. Marsh turned. Then I'll be there tomorrow, and I'll bring anyone who'll listen. Ethan stood, shook the Reverend's hand. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank Elizabeth. She's the one who taught you to see people worth saving. Ethan left the church. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the street. He had 3 witnesses now. Maybe 4, if he could find one more. He walked to the livery stable, found the blacksmith inside, hammering a horseshoe. McAllister, need something. Information. The blacksmith, Jacob Stone, stopped hammering, wiped his face with a rag. About what? Thomas Hartwell. You knew him. Worked alongside him for years. Good man. Died too young. His widow's being accused of stealing from his family. Jacob's face darkened. That's horse shit. You got proof. I got common sense. Thomas told me a dozen times he was leaving everything to Abigail. Said his father was a greedy bastard who'd try to take it back. Will you say that tomorrow, in front of the council? Jacob hesitated. Franklin Hartwell's got pull. Could make things difficult for me. I know. I'm asking anyway. Jacob looked at his anvil, at the half-finished horseshoe, at his hands scarred from years of work. Thomas was my friend, he said finally. I owe him the truth. Thank you. Ethan rode home as darkness fell. The stars came out one by one, cold and distant. He thought about Abigail waiting at the ranch, about his children sleeping safe in the loft, about the fight coming tomorrow. When he got home, Abigail was sitting by the fire, She looked up when he entered. "Well, I got 4 people willing to testify on your behalf." Her eyes widened. 4? Doc Ferguson, Sarah Brennan, Reverend Marsh, Jacob Stone. "They'll all come. They gave me their word." She stood cross to him, stopped just inches away. Her eyes searched his face. "Why are you doing this?" "Because it's right." "That's not enough of a reason to risk everything." He reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't pull away. "Maybe I got other reasons." "Like what?" He could tell her now, could lay it all out. But the words stuck in his throat, tangled with fear and grief and 3 years of loneliness. Instead, he said, "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hard." Disappointment flickered across her face again. She nodded, stepped back. "Good night, Ethan." She climbed the ladder. He stood there alone, cursing himself for a coward. Saturday morning dawned clear and brutally cold, the kind of cold that made your lungs hurt, made your eyes water. Ethan hitched the wagon. Abigail came out dressed in her best, which wasn't much. A gray dress mended at the seams, hair pulled back tight. "You look fine," he said. "I look like a woman who owns one dress." "You look like someone with nothing to hide." She climbed into the wagon. Nate and Rosie stayed home with a neighbor woman Ethan trusted. The children didn't need to see this. The ride to town was silent. Abigail's hands twisted in her lap. Ethan wanted to reach over, cover them with his own. Didn't. When they rolled into Silver Creek, people were already gathering. The hearing was scheduled for 10 o'clock in the town hall. Half the town would be there. Ethan helped Abigail down. She stood straight, chin up, refusing to show fear. "Ready?" he asked. "No, but I'm going anyway." They walked into the town hall together. Heads turned. Whispers hissed through the crowd like wind through grass. Franklin Hartwell sat at the front with his son David. Both wore their Sunday best, looked respectable, righteous. The town council sat behind a long table. 5 men. Mayor Whitmore in the center. Ethan knew 3 of them. 2 were fair. 3 were in Franklin's pocket. This was going to be ugly. Abigail sat in the front row. Ethan sat beside her. Behind them, Doc Ferguson entered. Then Sarah Brennan. Then Reverend Marsh. Then Jacob Stone. 4 witnesses. 4 people willing to risk everything for truth. Mayor Whitmore banged his gavel. "This hearing will come to order." The room fell silent. "We're here to address accusations made by Franklin Hartwell against Abigail Hartwell concerning alleged theft of family assets. Mr. Hartwell, present your case." Franklin stood. He was good. Ethan had to give him that. Spoke clear and steady. Told a story about a devoted son who fell for the wrong woman. About money that disappeared after Thomas died. About a widow who refused to return what didn't belong to her. $200, Franklin said. "Gone. My son worked his whole life to build something, and this woman took it all." People murmured. Heads nodded. "Mrs. Hartwell," the mayor said. "Your response?" Abigail stood. Her hands shook, but her voice didn't. "Thomas gave me that money. It was mine legally. I spent it on his medical care. I have nothing left to return, even if I wanted to." "You got proof?" one of the councilmen asked. "I do. Dr. Ferguson has records." The doctor walked forward, placed his ledger on the table. $187 paid over 6 months, all from Mrs. Hartwell, all documented. The council passed the ledger around. Faces tightened. Franklin's jaw clenched. "That don't prove the money was hers to spend." "Actually, it does." Sarah Brennan stood. "I was there when Thomas died. Abigail told both of us that the money in the house was hers. Said you'd try to take it back, Mr. Hartwell. He wanted her protected from you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Franklin's face went red. "You're lying." "I'm not, and I'll swear it on a Bible if you want." "I'll swear it too." Jacob Stone stood. Thomas told me the same thing a dozen times. Said his father was a greedy man who'd steal from his own daughter-in-law. Franklin lurched to his feet. This is a conspiracy. They're all lying to protect her. Why would they lie? Reverend Marsh stood. What do they gain? These are respected members of this community, people of integrity. If they say Mrs. Hartwell is innocent, I believe them. The crowd shifted. Murmurs changed tone. Doubt crept in. Mayor Whitmore banged his gavel. Order. But the damage was done. 4 witnesses against 1 accusation. 4 people risking everything for truth. The council huddled, whispered, argued. Finally, the mayor spoke. Based on the evidence presented, this council finds insufficient proof of theft. Mrs. Hartwell, you're free to go. Abigail's legs buckled. Ethan caught her elbow. Franklin roared. This is an outrage. She's a thief and a liar. This hearing is adjourned, the mayor said firmly. People stood. Some left quickly. Others lingered, staring at Abigail with new eyes. Not sympathy, just less hatred. Ethan led her outside. She stood on the steps, breathing hard, shaking. It's over, he said. Is it? She looked at him. They still hate me. Some do. Not all. Doc Ferguson passed, tipped his hat. Sarah Brennan smiled. Small. Real. Thank you. Abigail called after them. They nodded and kept walking. But they'd stood for her. That mattered. Franklin burst from the hall, David behind him. He pointed at Ethan. You did this. You poisoned them against me. I told the truth. That's all. You'll pay for this, McAllister. Both of you. He stormed off, his son following. Ethan watched them go, watched the threat hanging in the cold air like breath. Let's go home, he said. They rode in silence. But it was a different silence now, lighter, hopeful. When they reached the ranch, the children ran out. Rosie threw herself at Abigail. Nate hung back, but his eyes were soft. They said you were innocent, Rosie asked. They did. Good. Because you're too nice to be a bad person. Abigail's eyes filled. She knelt, hugged the girl tight. Nate approached slowly. I'm sorry I was mean to you. You weren't mean. You were protecting your heart. That's not wrong. Can I stop now, protecting my heart? That's up to you. He thought about it, then nodded. Okay. He hugged her quick, awkward, then pulled back embarrassed. Ethan watched his son learn to trust again, watched his daughter bloom under Abigail's attention, watched Abigail transform from a starving widow into something else entirely, something that looked a lot like family. That night she set 4 plates without hesitation. When they sat to eat, Ethan said grace. Thanked God for food and safety and second chances. When he finished, Abigail's hand found his under the table. Squeezed once. He squeezed back. And for the first time in 3 years, Ethan McAllister felt something dangerous bloom in his chest. Hope. Hope was a dangerous thing. Ethan had learned that the hard way. Hope made you careless, made you forget that the world had teeth. He learned it again 2 weeks after the hearing. Spring came slowly to Colorado territory. Snow melted into mud. Rivers swelled. The land woke up hungry and mean. Ethan worked dawn to dusk, getting the ranch ready for breeding season. Abigail worked beside him, mending fences, organizing the forge, keeping books that finally made sense. Nate had softened. Not all the way. But he no longer flinched when Abigail touched his shoulder. No longer turned away when she asked about his day. Small victories. They added up. Rosie bloomed like wildflowers after rain. She followed Abigail everywhere, chattering constantly, learning to read, to cook, to braid her own hair. The loneliness that had lived in her eyes since her mother died was fading, being replaced by something brighter. Ethan watched it happen and felt his own walls crumbling. Felt himself wanting things he'd promised he'd never want again. Dangerous things. Forever things. One evening after supper, he found Abigail in the forge. She was organizing tools, humming something low and sweet. The sound stopped him cold. His wife used to hum like that. "You're good at this," he said from the doorway. She turned, wiping her hands on her apron. "At what?" "Being here, with us." A shadow crossed her face. "For now." "What's that mean?" "It means I'm grateful for what you've given me. A place to stay. Work. But I'm not foolish enough to think it's permanent." He stepped inside closer. "What if I want it to be—" Her breath caught. "Ethan, what if I'm tired of pretending you're just hired help? What if I want more than that? You don't know what you want. You're lonely. I'm convenient. Don't tell me what I feel. Then don't ask me to believe in something that'll disappear the moment you come to your senses." He caught her wrist, gentle but firm. "I am in my senses. For the first time in 3 years, I'm thinking clear." She pulled away. "Your wife's been gone 3 years. I've been here 3 months. That's not enough time to know anything." "How much time do I need?" "More than this." She walked past him back toward the cabin. He stood in the forge alone, surrounded by cold iron and the ghosts of things he'd almost said. That night he lay awake staring at the ceiling. Above him, Abigail moved restlessly in the loft. Neither of them slept. The next morning, everything changed. Ethan was in the corral working a young stallion when he saw riders approaching. 4 men. Moving slow, deliberate. He recognized the lead horse before he saw the man's face. Franklin Hartwell. Ethan's jaw clenched. He handed the stallion's lead to Abigail. "Get inside. Take the children." "What's wrong?" "Just do it." She saw the riders. Her face went pale. She ran for the cabin, calling for Nate and Rosie. Ethan walked to the fence line, met the riders there. Franklin, David. 2 men Ethan didn't recognize. Big men, hard faces, the kind you hired when you wanted someone hurt. "McAllister," Franklin said. His voice was cold, empty. "We got business." "State it and leave." "You humiliated me in front of the whole town, made me look like a liar and a fool." "You did that yourself." Franklin's face twisted. "That woman poisoned you against me. Poisoned the whole town. She's a witch and a whore, and you're too stupid to see it." Ethan's hands clenched. "Get off my land." "Not until I've said my piece." Franklin leaned forward in his saddle. "You want her. You can have her. But you'll have nothing else. No business, no friends, no place in this town. You'll be ruined, and so will your children." "You threatening my kids?" "I'm stating facts. Folks don't take kindly to men who side with thieves. Your boy won't be welcome at school. Your girl won't be invited to town gatherings. You'll be outcasts. All because you couldn't keep your hands off a dead man's wife." Ethan took a step forward. "Say one more word about her, and I'll put you in the ground next to your son." David's hand moved toward his belt. Ethan's eyes flicked to him. "Don't." The 2 hired men shifted in their saddles, waiting for a signal. Franklin smiled. Ugly, mean. "You can't win this, McAllister. You're one man. I got half the town behind me. You'll lose everything." "Then I'll lose everything. But I won't lose my integrity." "Integrity don't feed your kids." "Neither does cowardice." Franklin spat in the dirt. "You've made your choice. Live with the consequences." He wheeled his horse around. The 4 men rode off, kicking up mud. Ethan stood at the fence, breathing hard. His hands shook with rage he couldn't release. Abigail came out of the cabin, walked to him slowly. "What did he say?" "Nothing worth repeating." "Ethan." He turned to her. "He said we'll be ruined. The children will be outcasts. No one will do business with us. All because I'm protecting you." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Then don't." "What?" "Don't protect me. I'll leave. Today. You can tell everyone I ran off. Your life goes back to normal." "That's not what I want." "It's what you need. For your children. My children need a mother more than they need the approval of hypocrites." The words hung between them. Heavy. True. Her eyes widened. A mother. Yes. Ethan, you can't. I can. I am. I'm asking you to stay. Not as hired help. As family. As my wife. She stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. You don't mean that. I've never meant anything more. We barely know each other. I know you're kind, strong, good with my children. I know you make me want to be better than I am. That's enough. That's not love. Maybe not yet, but it could be, if you give it time. Tears filled her eyes. You're asking me to marry you out of obligation, because Franklin threatened you. I'm asking because I want you to stay. The threat just made me stop being a coward about saying it. She shook her head. This is insane. Probably. People will talk. Let them. Your children. My children love you. Rosie told me last week she wishes you were her mama. Nate asked if you'd teach him to read better. They need you. And you? Her voice broke. What do you need? He reached up, cupped her face in his calloused hands. I need to stop being afraid of living. I need to believe good things can happen to broken people. I need you. She closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I'm scared. Me too. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? She opened her eyes, looked at him, really looked, saw past the hard exterior to the man underneath, the one who'd lost everything and was trying to build something new from the ruins. This is crazy, she whispered. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. I'll take it. He kissed her forehead. Soft, chaste. A promise, not a claim. She leaned into him for just a moment, then pulled back. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. She walked back to the cabin. He watched her go, heart pounding. He'd laid it all out. No taking it back now. Inside the cabin, Rosie was setting the table. She looked up when Abigail entered. Are you crying? No, sweetheart. You are. Did Papa make you sad? Abigail knelt beside the girl. No, he made me feel something I haven't felt in a long time. What? Hope. Rosie hugged her tight. Don't leave us. Please don't leave. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Abigail hesitated, then nodded. I promise. That night she set 4 plates, but when Ethan said grace, he added something new. And thank you, Lord, for second chances, for bringing people into our lives who teach us how to love again. Amen. Abigail's eyes met his across the table. She didn't say anything, didn't need to. The answer was in her eyes. Yes. 3 days later, they rode to town together. Ethan, Abigail, and both children. People stared as they passed. Whispers followed them like shadows. They stopped at Reverend Marsh's house. The old man opened the door, smiled when he saw them. Ethan, Mrs. Hartwell, what brings you here? We'd like to get married, Ethan said. Today, if you're willing. Marsh's eyebrows rose. Today? Yes, sir. The Reverend looked at Abigail. Is this what you want? She glanced at Ethan, at the children standing between them, at the future she'd stopped letting herself imagine. Yes. Then come inside. They gathered in the Reverend's small parlor. Marsh's wife served as witness. The children stood on either side of Abigail, holding her hands. The ceremony was simple. No flowers, no music, just words spoken in front of God, and 2 people who'd learned to believe in second chances. Do you, Ethan McAllister, take Abigail Hartwell to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you, Abigail Hartwell, take Ethan McAllister to be your lawfully wedded husband? She looked at Ethan, saw the fear in his eyes, the hope, the determination to build something good from all the broken pieces. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. Ethan kissed her. Brief. Gentle. A beginning, not an end. Rosie clapped. Nate smiled. Small, real. They signed the papers. Made it legal. Made it real. When they left the Reverend's house, word had already spread. People stood on the street watching. Some faces showed approval. Most showed shock. A few showed anger. Warren Kent stood outside his store, arms crossed. "Well, that was fast." "Life's short," Ethan said. "Seemed foolish to waste time. Folks'll talk. Let them." They climbed into the wagon, rode home as a family, legally, officially. That night, Abigail moved her things downstairs. Ethan gave her space. Time to adjust. They lay in separate beds, listening to the children breathe in the loft above. "Ethan?" Her voice came soft through the darkness. "Yeah, thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me when I was invisible. For believing me when no one else did. For giving me a home." He turned toward her, could just make out her shape in the dim firelight. "You gave me something too." "What?" "A reason to stop hiding from life." She was quiet for a long moment. Then he heard her bed creak, heard her footsteps cross the floor, felt her slip into bed beside him. "Abigail." "I'm tired of being afraid," she whispered. "Tired of keeping walls up. You asked me to be your wife. Let me actually be your wife." He pulled her close. She fit against him, like she'd always belonged there. Her head on his chest, his arms around her. Two broken people learning to be whole. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "Haven't been with anyone since Elizabeth. I haven't been with anyone since Thomas. We'll figure it out together." They lay like that until sleep came, holding each other, grateful, terrified, hopeful. In the loft, Rosie whispered to Nate, "Does this mean Miss Abigail is our mama now?" "I guess so." "Good. I like her." "Me too," Nate admitted. "Me too." The weeks that followed were harder than Ethan expected. Franklin made good on his threats. Ranch hands who'd worked for Ethan for years suddenly found other employment. Merchants in town refused to sell to him. Prices doubled when they did. Invitations to community gatherings stopped coming. The isolation was deliberate, calculated, mean. But Ethan had faced worse. Had survived war, survived grief. This was just another battle. And this time, he wasn't fighting alone. Abigail proved herself tougher than anyone expected. When the general store refused them service, she started buying from traveling merchants. When the school refused, Rosie Abigail taught her at home. When ranchers refused to do business, Ethan sold his horses to the army directly. Cut out the middlemen. Made more money doing it. They adapted, survived, even thrived in their own way. But the loneliness wore on the children. Rosie stopped smiling as much. Asked why her friends couldn't come play anymore. Nate grew quieter. Angrier. Came home one day with a black eye. Ethan found him washing blood from his knuckles. "What happened?" "Nothing." "Nate?" "Billy Hartwell said you married a whore. Said Mama would be ashamed. I hit him." Ethan's chest tightened. "Did you win?" "Yeah." "Good, but fighting ain't gonna solve this." "Then what will—" Ethan didn't have an answer. So he did what his father taught him. He pulled his son close, let the boy cry against his shoulder, let him feel the anger and hurt and confusion. "I'm sorry," Ethan said. "This is my fault." "It's not. You did the right thing." Sometimes doing right don't feel good. Mama used to say hard things are worth it if they're true things. She was a smart woman. So is Abigail. Ethan pulled back, looked at his son. "You really think that?" "Yeah, she's good to us. She makes you smile again. That's worth fighting for." Out of the mouths of babes, 10 years old and wiser than most grown men. That night, Ethan held a family meeting, all 4 of them around the table. "I know this has been hard," he said. "Know you've lost friends, Lost your place in town. That's on me. I made choices that affected all of us, and I'm sorry for that." "Don't be sorry," Rosie said. "I like having Mama Abigail here." Abigail's eyes filled. The girl had started calling her that last week. It still made her chest hurt in the best way. "Me too," Nate said. "But I'm tired of people being mean." "I know, me too." "So what do we do?" Abigail asked. Ethan looked at his family, his wife, his children, the life they were building against all odds. "We keep living, keep working, keep proving we're not what they say we are. Eventually truth wins out. And if it doesn't, then we'll know we tried. That's all anyone can do." They joined hands around the table, prayed together, drew strength from each other. Outside, the wind picked up. A storm was coming. They could feel it in the air, taste it on the wind. But they'd weathered storms before. They'd weather this one too. 2 weeks later, fire came to Silver Creek. It started in the middle of the night. Lightning struck the livery stable. Flames spread fast, jumping from building to building. The whole town woke to the smell of smoke and the sound of screaming. Ethan saw the glow from his ranch, 15 miles away, but bright enough to light the sky orange. "Stay here," he told Abigail. "No, if people are in trouble, they hate us, they won't want our help." "I don't care. It's the right thing to do." He looked at her, saw the determination in her eyes, the same stubborn strength that had kept her alive when the world tried to break her. "All right, but the kids stay here." They woke Nate, told him to watch Rosie. Then they rode hard for town. By the time they arrived, half the main street was burning. People ran in chaos. Bucket brigades formed. Children cried. Animals screamed from inside burning buildings. Ethan dismounted, grabbed a bucket, started hauling water. Abigail did the same, working side by side with people who'd shunned them for weeks. No one told them to leave. There was no time for hate, only survival. The livery collapsed in a shower of sparks. The saloon caught fire, then the hotel. Abigail saw a woman standing frozen near a burning building. My babies are inside." Without thinking, Abigail ran toward the building. Ethan saw her, shouted, "Abigail, no!" She didn't stop, disappeared into smoke and flame. Time stopped. Ethan's heart stopped. He ran after her, but hands grabbed him, held him back. "You'll die in there. My wife is already inside. 2 dead won't help those kids." Seconds stretched into eternity. Then Abigail emerged, coughing, face black with soot, a child under each arm. She stumbled, fell to her knees, handed the children to their mother. Ethan reached her, pulled her up, held her while she coughed. "You fool," he said. "You could have died." "But I didn't." She looked up at him, eyes streaming. "And those children are alive." The mother was crying, holding her babies. Other people stared, seeing Abigail differently now. Not as a thief, not as a whore, but as someone who'd risked everything to save children who weren't even hers. They fought the fire until dawn. When the sun rose, half the town was ash, but half still stood, and no one had died. People collapsed where they stood, exhausted, grateful, alive. Warren Kent approached Ethan. His face was haggard, old. "I was wrong about your wife," he said. "About you." Ethan nodded, too tired for words. Sarah Brennan hugged Abigail. "Thank you. Those were my sister's children." Abigail just nodded, couldn't speak. Throat burned, lungs hurt. Reverend Marsh stood before the gathered survivors. "Today we lost buildings, but we saved lives. And we learned something about who we are, about who stands with us when everything's burning." His eyes found Abigail, then Ethan. "These two have been cast out, judged, condemned. But when we needed help, they came. When children needed saving, they didn't hesitate. Perhaps we need to reconsider what we think we know about righteousness. People shifted. Uncomfortable, but listening. Franklin Hartwell stood at the back of the crowd. His face was twisted with rage. He'd lost his store, lost his standing, and now he was losing his grip on the town's hatred. He turned and walked away. David followed. The fight wasn't over, but the tide had turned. Ethan and Abigail rode home as the sun climbed higher. They were filthy, exhausted, aching, but alive. The children ran out to meet them, threw themselves at their parents, crying with relief. "We saw the fire," Nate said. "Thought you wouldn't come back." "We came back," Abigail said. "We'll always come back." They stumbled inside, washed off the soot, ate cold food because neither had strength to cook, then collapsed into bed. Ethan pulled Abigail close. "You scared me today." "I scared myself." "Don't ever do that again." "Can't promise that." He kissed the top of her head. "I love you." The words slipped out. Unplanned. True. She went still, then turned to look at him. "What?" "I love you. Don't know when it happened, but it did." Tears filled her eyes. "You don't have to say that." "I want to. Been wanting to for weeks. Just didn't have the courage." "Ethan." "You don't have to say it back. Just needed you to know." She kissed him then. Deep, real, tasting like smoke and hope and tomorrow. When she pulled back, she whispered, "I love you too." He held her while she cried, while she let herself believe it, let herself hope. They'd survived fire, survived hate, survived their own fear. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Outside, ash fell like snow, covering the land, making everything look new. And maybe it was. The days after the fire moved differently, slower, like the whole town was catching its breath after nearly dying. Ethan and Abigail threw themselves into work, helping rebuild what had burned. They showed up every morning with tools and strong backs, asking nothing in return. Some people accepted the help, others turned them away. Old hate died hard. But something had shifted. The looks weren't as hostile. The whispers weren't as cruel. A few people even nodded in greeting. Progress. Slow as molasses in winter, but progress nonetheless. Franklin Hartwell disappeared for 2 weeks after the fire. When he returned, he looked like a different man. Thinner, older. Something in him had broken. Ethan saw him in town one morning loading supplies onto a wagon. "Franklin." The old man turned. His eyes were hollow. "McAllister." "You leaving?" "Going to stay with David in Denver. Nothing left for me here." Ethan studied him, saw defeat written in every line of his face. Part of him wanted to gloat, to say something cutting, but standing there looking at a broken old man who'd lost his son and his purpose, Ethan felt only pity. "I'm sorry about Thomas," Ethan said. "He was a good man, deserved better than what happened." Franklin's jaw worked. "He loved her, you know, your wife. Loved her more than anything. Used to say she was the only good thing in his whole miserable life." "She's a good woman." "I know that now." Franklin's voice cracked. "I blamed her because I needed someone to blame. Because if it wasn't her fault, then maybe it was mine. Maybe I failed him somehow." "You didn't fail him. Life just happens sometimes. Cruel and random." "Maybe." Franklin climbed onto his wagon. "Take care of her, McAllister. Don't make the same mistakes I did." "I won't." Franklin rode off without looking back. Ethan watched until he disappeared around the bend. Another ghost laid to rest. When he got home, Abigail was in the garden planting seeds. Rosie helped chattering about flowers. Nate was in the forge with a neighbor boy learning to hammer metal. The sound rang clear across the yard. Ethan stood there watching his family, his wife, his children, the life they'd built from ashes and rejection and stubborn refusal to give up. Abigail looked up, saw him, smiled. the kind of smile that reached all the way down to her bones. He crossed the yard, pulled her to her feet, kissed her right there in the dirt. Rosie giggled. Abigail laughed against his mouth. What was that for? Just needed to. Well? She touched his face. I'm not complaining. That night, after the children were asleep, they lay tangled together in bed. Her head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. Franklin's leaving town, Ethan said. She went still. Is he heading to Denver? Said to tell you he was sorry. Did he mean it? I think so. She was quiet for a long time. I don't hate him. I should. But I just feel sad for him. That's because you're better than most people. I'm not better. I'm just tired of carrying hate around. It's too heavy. He kissed the top of her head. I love you. I love you too. They'd said it every day since the fire, like they were making up for lost time, like they'd finally given themselves permission to feel it. Ethan, yeah. Do you ever feel guilty for being happy? He understood immediately what she meant. You mean because Elizabeth's gone? And Thomas? Yeah, sometimes. Like I'm betraying their memory by moving on. But we're not betraying them, are we? We're just surviving. More than surviving. We're living. She turned to look at him. You think they'd be happy for us, wherever they are? I think Elizabeth would kick my ass if I spent the rest of my life alone. She told me once before she got pregnant that if anything ever happened to her, I had to promise not to become one of those bitter old widowers who died angry. And Thomas told me on his deathbed that I was too young to waste my life grieving. Made me promise I'd find someone who made me laugh. Do I make you laugh? Sometimes, when you're not being stubborn. He tickled her ribs. She yelped, swatted his hand away. They wrestled like children until she pinned him breathless and grinning. I win. This time, she kissed him, deep and sweet and full of promise. When she pulled back, her eyes were serious. I want to have a baby. His heart stopped, started again, faster. Abigail. I know it's soon, I know it's scary, but I'm 30 years old and I want a family, a real family, not just borrowed pieces of someone else's. Nate and Rosie are yours, you know that. I do, and I love them, but I want to carry your child, want to give them a brother or sister, want to build something that's just ours. Fear clawed at his chest. He'd lost one wife to childbirth, lost the baby too. The thought of going through that again made him want to vomit. I can't lose you, he said roughly. I won't survive it. You won't lose me. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll fight like hell to stay. And Doc Ferguson's better than the midwife we had before. He'll take care of me. Abigail, I need this, Ethan. Need to know we're building a future, not just surviving the present. He looked at her, saw the determination in her eyes, the hope, the desperate need to create life in a world that had taken so much from both of them. All right, he said finally, but we do it smart. We talk to Doc Ferguson first. Make sure you're healthy. Make sure we're ready. She threw her arms around his neck. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm going to be insufferable, hovering over you every second, driving you crazy. I'm counting on it. They held each other in the darkness. Two people who'd learned the hard way that love was a gamble, that every good thing came with the risk of loss. But they were gambling anyway, because that's what living meant. They went to see Doc Ferguson the next week. He examined Abigail, asked questions, took notes. When he finished, his face was serious. You're healthy, he said. Strong. No reason you can't carry a baby to term. But I won't lie to you, childbirth is dangerous, especially out here where help is scarce. I know, Abigail said. And you, McAllister. The doctor turned to Ethan. You need to be prepared. Sometimes things go wrong no matter what we do. I'll do everything in my power to keep both mother and baby safe, but I can't make promises." Ethan's hands clenched. "If it comes down to a choice—" "Don't," Abigail interrupted. "Don't you dare say it. I have to. If something goes wrong and you can only save one, you save both." Her voice was steel. "You hear me, doctor? You save both or you save neither. I won't live knowing my child died so I could survive." "Abigail." "No, Ethan. I mean it. I won't do that. I can't." Doc Ferguson held up his hand. "Let's not borrow trouble. Most births go fine. We plan for the worst, hope for the best. Deal?" Abigail nodded. Ethan did too, though his gut churned with fear. They left the doctor's office hand in hand, walked through town past people who still stared but no longer sneered. The acceptance was grudging, but it was there. "You scared?" Abigail asked. "Terrified." "Me too, but I'm also excited. We're going to have a baby, Ethan, a little person who's half you and half me." He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. "You're going to be a wonderful mother." "I already am. To Nate and Rosie. But this feels different." "Because it is." That night they told the children. Rosie's eyes went wide as the moon. "A baby. Really?" "Really," Abigail said. "Can I help take care of it?" "Of course." Rosie threw her arms around Abigail's middle. "I'm going to be the best big sister ever." Nate was quieter. He studied his father's face, saw the fear hiding behind the smile. Later, when Rosie was asleep, Nate came downstairs, found Ethan sitting by the fire. "You worried about Mama Abigail?" Ethan nodded. No point lying to the boy. "Because of what happened to Mama?" "Yeah." Nate sat beside him. "Abigail's strong. Stronger than anyone I know. She'll be okay." "You can't know that." "Neither can you. But worrying won't change anything. It'll just make you miserable now, instead of later." Ethan looked at his son. When had he gotten so wise? "How'd you get so smart?" "I had a good teacher." Nate stood. "Get some sleep, Pa. Tomorrow's gonna be a long day." He went back upstairs. Ethan sat alone by the fire trying to believe his son's words. Trying to trust that this time would be different. 3 months passed. Abigail's belly began to swell. She glowed with it, moved through the house humming. Talked to the baby like it could already hear her. Ethan watched her constantly, hovering like she'd predicted, checking on her every hour, driving her absolutely crazy. "I'm fine," she said for the 100th time. "Stop worrying." "Can't help it. Try." He tried, failed, worried anyway. The ranch work continued. Horses were born, trained, sold. The army contracts kept them busy. Money came in steady. They were surviving. More than surviving. They were thriving. The town continued to thaw toward them. Invitations started coming again. To church socials, town meetings, barn raisings, small things. But they mattered. Rosie made friends again, came home chattering about girls she'd played with. Nate spent more time in town learning blacksmith work from Jacob Stone. The isolation was breaking. Slowly, carefully. One evening, Sarah Brennan came to visit, brought a basket of food and a pile of children's clothes. "For the baby?" she said, smiling. Abigail's eyes filled. "Sarah, you didn't have to." "I wanted to. You saved my sister's children. This is the least I can do." She stayed for supper, laughed with the children, told stories about teaching. It felt normal. Good. After she left, Abigail stood on the porch, looking out at the darkening sky. "We're going to be okay," she said. Ethan came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her growing belly. "Yeah, we are." But the universe had other plans. It started 6 months into the pregnancy. Abigail woke in the middle of the night, gasping. Pain tore through her middle. Sharp. Wrong. "Ethan!" He was awake instantly. "What's wrong?" "Something's wrong. The baby. He saw blood on the sheets. His heart stopped. "Nate!" he roared. "Get up, ride to town. Get Doc Ferguson now." The boy appeared at the top of the ladder, eyes wide. He saw his father's face and didn't ask questions. Just grabbed his coat and ran. Ethan carried Abigail to the table, laid her down gently. Her face was white. Sweat beaded on her forehead. "It hurts," she gasped. "I know, Doc's coming. Hold on. The baby is going to be fine. You're both going to be fine." He said it like a prayer, like if he said it enough times, God would have to listen. Rosie appeared, rubbing her eyes, saw the blood, started crying. "Go back upstairs," Ethan said. "Please, sweetheart." "Is Mama Abigail dying?" "No, she's going to be fine, but I need you upstairs. Can you do that for me?" Rosie nodded, climbed back up. He heard her crying softly in the loft. Abigail's hand found his, gripped tight. "Ethan, I'm scared." "I know. Me too. But you're strong. Stronger than anyone. You're going to fight through this. Promise me something. Anything. If the baby lives and I don't talk like that. Promise me you'll tell them about me. Tell them I loved them. Tell them I fought to stay. You're not going anywhere. Promise me." "I promise." She closed her eyes. Tears leaked from the corners. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For not being strong enough. You're the strongest person I know." The door burst open. Doc Ferguson rushed in, bag in hand. Nate was right behind him, face pale. "Out," the doctor ordered. "All of you, now." Ethan didn't move. "I'm staying." "You'll be in the way." "I don't care." Ferguson looked at him, saw the terror, the determination. "Fine, but don't touch anything. And if I tell you to leave, you leave." Ethan nodded. The doctor worked quickly, examining, pressing, asking questions Abigail could barely answer through the pain. Finally, he looked up. "The baby's trying to come early. Too early. We need to stop the labor or you'll lose them both." "What do we do?" Ethan asked. "Pray mostly, and keep her still. No moving, no stress, complete bed rest." "For how long?" "Until the baby's ready. Could be weeks, could be months." Abigail's hand found Ethan's. "I can do that." "You'll go crazy lying in bed that long." "Then I'll go crazy, but I won't lose this baby." Doc Ferguson gave her medicine. Something to stop the contractions, to ease the pain. She drifted off into uneasy sleep. The doctor pulled Ethan aside. "This is serious. One wrong move and she could lose everything. You need help, someone to watch her constantly." "I'll do it." "You've got a ranch to run, kids to care for." "I'll figure it out." Ferguson studied him. "You really love her. More than anything. Then prove it. Keep her alive." The doctor left. Ethan stood in the doorway watching Abigail sleep. Her hand rested on her belly, protecting the life inside even in unconsciousness. Nate came downstairs. "Is she going to die?" "No." "You can't know that." "Then I'm choosing to believe it anyway." The boy's face crumpled. "I can't lose another mother." Ethan pulled his son close, held him while he cried. "You won't. I won't let that happen. You couldn't stop it last time. This time is different." "How?" "Because this time I know what I have to lose." The weeks that followed were the hardest of Ethan's life. Abigail stayed in bed like the doctor ordered. He brought her meals, read to her, sat with her for hours. The children visited constantly, bringing flowers, drawings, stories. The ranch work suffered. Ethan hired help, paid more than he could afford. But money didn't matter. Nothing mattered except keeping his wife alive. Some days were good. Abigail sat up, smiled, talked about baby names. Other days were bad. Pain came in waves. She cried, begged God to let the baby live. Ethan held her through all of it. 7 months, then 8. The baby grew. Abigail's belly swelled despite the bed rest. The contractions stopped coming. Doc Ferguson visited weekly, checked her, nodded approval. "You're doing good," he said. "Another few weeks and the baby will be strong enough." "How many weeks?" 2, maybe 3. "I can do that." She made it 2.5. Ethan was in the barn when Nate came running. "Pa, it's time!" He dropped everything, ran to the house, found Abigail on the floor. She'd tried to get up, made it 3 steps before the contractions started. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I just needed to move." "It's okay." He lifted her back to bed. "Nate, get the doctor. Rosie, boil water. Lots of it." The children scattered. Ethan stayed with Abigail, held her hand, counted breaths, prayed harder than he'd ever prayed in his life. Doc Ferguson arrived 20 minutes later. He examined her quickly. "This baby's coming. No stopping it now." "Is it too early?" "It's close, real close. Could go either way." Ethan's world narrowed to the woman on the bed, to the sound of her breathing, to the desperate hope that this time would be different. "I'm here," he told her. "I'm not going anywhere." "I know." She smiled through the pain. "I love you." "I love you too, so much." If something happens, nothing's going to happen. But if it does take care of our babies, all 3 of them, you're going to take care of them yourself, for the next 50 years. She laughed, cried, screamed as another contraction hit. The labor lasted 8 hours. 8 hours of agony and terror and desperate prayer. Ethan had never felt so helpless, so useless. All he could do was hold her hand and watch her suffer. Finally, just after midnight, a thin wail cut through the cabin. Doc Ferguson held up a tiny, squirming baby. "It's a girl." Abigail sobbed. "Is she okay?" "Small, but breathing. Looks strong." The doctor cleaned the baby, wrapped her in blankets, handed her to Abigail. The woman looked down at the tiny face and fell apart. Joy, relief, overwhelming love. "She's perfect," Abigail whispered. Ethan touched his daughter's tiny hand. She gripped his finger with surprising strength. "Yeah, she is." Doc Ferguson finished his work, packed his bag. "Mother and baby are both stable. You got lucky." "Lucky," Ethan repeated. His legs felt weak. He sat heavily in a chair. "You did good, Abigail. Both of you did." After the doctor left, Nate and Rosie came downstairs. They stared at the baby with wide eyes. "She's so small," Rosie whispered. "You were even smaller," Ethan said. "Can I hold her?" Abigail nodded. Rosie sat carefully cradling the baby like she was made of glass. Nate stood behind her, one hand on his sister's shoulder, looking at the newest member of their family with wonder. "What's her name?" Nate asked. Ethan looked at Abigail. They'd discussed this, argued about it, finally agreed. "Grace," Abigail said. "Her name is Grace." "After Grandma?" Rosie asked. "No." Abigail looked at Ethan. "After the thing that brought us together. Grace, mercy, second chances." Ethan's throat closed. He bent down, kissed his wife's forehead. Perfect. They sat together through the night, a family, battered, broken, put back together with love and stubbornness and refusal to give up. Outside, dawn was breaking, pink and gold across the mountains. A new day, a new beginning. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Ethan McAllister wasn't afraid of what came next. Baby Grace changed everything. Not overnight, not in some miraculous transformation, but slowly, steadily, like spring thaw melting winter ice. She was colicky the first month, cried through the nights. Ethan and Abigail took turns walking her, bouncing her singing to her. Exhaustion became their new normal. They moved through days like ghosts surviving on coffee and stolen moments of sleep. But they were happy. Bone-tired and overwhelmed, but happy. Rosie took her role as big sister seriously. She helped change diapers, sang lullabies, insisted on holding Grace every chance she got. Nate was more reserved, but Ethan caught him standing over the cradle, sometimes watching the baby sleep with something fierce and protective in his eyes. "She's so small," Nate said one morning. "Seems wrong that something that small can survive out here." "She's tougher than she looks," Ethan said. "Takes after her mother. And her father." Ethan glanced at his son. The boy had grown over the past year. Taller, broader in the shoulders. The anger that used to live in his eyes had softened into something calmer, more certain. "You're going to be a good man, Nate." "I'm trying to be. That's all any of us can do." Word of the baby spread through town. People showed up at the ranch bearing gifts, blankets, food, clothes. Even folks who'd turned their backs months ago came to pay respects, to offer congratulations. Warren Kent arrived with a wooden cradle he'd carved himself. "For the baby," he said gruffly. "Figured you could use it." Abigail's eyes filled. "Mr. Kent, this is beautiful." "Well," he shuffled his feet. "I owed you an apology. Figured this was a start." "You don't owe me anything." "I do. I was wrong about you. Wrong about a lot of things. I'm sorry." She touched his arm. Apology accepted. After he left, Ethan found Abigail crying in the kitchen. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Everything. I just never thought we'd get here. Never thought people would actually accept us. Took long enough. But we made it." She turned to him. "We survived." He pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. More than survived. The ranch prospered. With the town no longer fighting them, business picked up. Ethan sold more horses than ever. The army contracts expanded. He hired 2 full-time hands to help with the work. Young men who needed jobs and didn't care about old gossip. Money came in steady, enough to expand the house, add a room for the baby, fix the roof, buy Abigail the wood stove she'd been eyeing in town. Small luxuries. They added up to a life. One Sunday morning, Reverend Marsh stopped by after church. "I need to ask you something," he said to Ethan. "Go ahead." "The town council wants to elect a new sheriff. Old Tom Miller's retiring. We need someone honest, someone brave, someone the community respects." He paused. "We want you." Ethan stared. "You're joking." "I'm not. You've proven yourself. Stood up when it mattered. Helped rebuild after the fire. People trust you." "People hated me 6 months ago. People were afraid. There's a difference. Now they see what you're made of. They want that kind of man protecting them." Ethan shook his head. "I've got a ranch to run, a family to care for." "You'd still have time for both. It's not a full-time position, just when trouble comes. And we'd pay you." "I don't need money." "Then do it because it's right, because this town needs someone who won't be bought or intimidated. Someone who will stand up for people like your wife when everyone else turns away." Ethan looked at Abigail. She was inside feeding Grace, humming softly. He thought about everything they'd been through, the rejection, the isolation, the slow climb back to acceptance. "Can I think about it?" "Take all the time you need, but know this, you've already proven you're the right man. Question is whether you're willing." After Marsh left, Ethan sat on the porch. Abigail came out, baby in her arms. "You okay?" "They want me to be sheriff." Her eyebrows rose. "Really?" "Yeah." "What did you say?" "That I'd think about it." She sat beside him. Grace made soft cooing sounds. "What are you going to do?" I don't know. Part of me wants to tell them to go to hell, after everything they put us through. And the other part thinks maybe this is a chance to make sure what happened to us doesn't happen to someone else. She nodded slowly. You'd be good at it. You think so? I know so. You stand up for what's right even when it costs you. That's exactly what a sheriff should do. It'll mean more time away from the ranch. From you and the kids. We'll manage. We always do. He looked at her. At the woman who'd been starving in the street a year ago. Who'd faced down a whole town's judgment and come out stronger. Who'd nearly died bringing their daughter into the world and was already talking about having another baby in a few years. How'd I get so lucky? He asked. You didn't. You earned it. We both did. He kissed her, soft and sweet. Grace squirmed between them, fussing. I'll do it, Ethan said. I'll be sheriff. Good. Now come inside and help me with supper. Your daughter needs to eat, and so do I. He followed her inside, into the warm cabin, into the life they'd built from nothing. The town council made it official the following week. Pinned a tin star on Ethan's chest in front of half the town. People clapped, some grudgingly, most genuinely. You'll do us proud, Mayor Whitmore said. I'll do my best. That's all we ask. Being sheriff wasn't glamorous work. Most days it meant settling disputes between neighbors, breaking up fights outside the saloon, making sure folks didn't cheat each other in business deals, boring necessary work that kept a community functioning. But it mattered, and people respected him for it. 6 months after Grace was born, Sarah Brennan came to the ranch. Her face was troubled. I need your help, Sheriff. What's wrong? There's a woman in town. Came in on the stage last week. She's in trouble. Husband's dead. No money. No family. Sound familiar? Ethan's jaw tightened. Where is she now? Sleeping in the livery stable. Warren's letting her stay there, but folks are starting to talk. Saying she should move on, that we don't need her kind here. Her kind? A widow with no prospects. You know how it goes. He knew exactly how it went. He'd watched Abigail live it. Bring her here. Sarah blinked. Here? We've got room. We'll feed her. Give her work. Help her get back on her feet. Ethan, you don't even know her. Don't need to. I know what it's like to have nothing, and I know what one act of kindness can mean. He told Abigail that evening. She didn't hesitate. Bring her tomorrow. We'll make room. The woman's name was Margaret. She was 23, quiet, scared. She arrived with nothing but the clothes on her back and a haunted look in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know how I'll repay you. Don't need repayment, Abigail said. Just need you to work hard and give yourself time to heal. Margaret stayed in the loft with Rosie. She worked in the garden, helped with cooking and cleaning. Slowly over weeks, the fear left her eyes. She started smiling, laughing, living again. One evening she came to Ethan and Abigail with tears in her eyes. I found work in town, at the school. Miss Brennan needs an assistant. I start next week. That's wonderful, Abigail said. I never would have gotten there without you. You saved my life. We just gave you a chance. You saved yourself. After Margaret left to move into a boarding house in town, Abigail stood at the window watching her go. We did a good thing, she said. We did what was right. It feels good, helping someone the way you helped me. Ethan came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. Maybe we should do it again. What? Help people. There's a lot of folks out there who need a hand up. We've got the space, the resources. Maybe it's time we paid forward what we were given. She turned in his arms. You want to make this a regular thing. Why not? We know what it's like to be at the bottom, to need help and have nowhere to turn. We could be that somewhere for people. She smiled. Sheriff McAllister and his wife rescuing strays. Something like that. I love it. Over the next 2 years, they helped 7 more people. A man who'd lost his farm to bad debt. A woman fleeing an abusive brother. a teenage boy whose parents had died of fever. Each one stayed long enough to get back on their feet, then moved on to build their own lives. The ranch became known as a place of second chances. People talked about it, some with admiration, some with skepticism, but no one could deny it worked. Ethan's reputation as sheriff grew. He was fair, honest, couldn't be bought or intimidated. When miners tried to run roughshod over local farmers, he stopped them. When a gang of outlaws threatened the town, he organized a posse and ran them off. He was good at the work, better than he'd expected. Grace grew into a wild, fearless toddler. She had Abigail's dark hair and Ethan's gray eyes. She climbed everything, fell constantly, got right back up laughing. Rosie followed her around like a guardian angel, catching her when she stumbled. Nate carved her wooden toys with surprising skill. They were a family, loud, messy, imperfect, but real. One evening, 3 years after that first day in town, Ethan and Abigail sat on the porch watching the sun set. The children were inside. Grace was singing off-key. Rosie was correcting her. Nate was hammering something in the forge. "You ever miss it?" Ethan asked. "Miss what?" "The quiet, before all this, when it was just you and me figuring things out." She laughed. "Not even a little bit. Not even when Grace wakes us up at 3 in the morning screaming about monsters under her bed. Especially not then." He smiled, took her hand. "I love you, Abigail McAllister." "I love you too." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that came from knowing each other completely, from weathering storms together and coming out stronger. "You know what I was thinking about today?" Abigail said. "What?" "That day you found me in the street, starving, desperate. I thought I was at the end. Thought there was nothing left for me. And now I'm sitting on my porch watching the sunset with my husband. Our daughter is singing inside. Our other children are happy. We have more than I ever dreamed possible." She turned to him. "You saved my life that day. You saved mine too." "How?" "By reminding me what it meant to live, to hope, to love without being afraid of losing everything." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "We did good, didn't we? Better than good." The door opened. Grace toddled out, hair wild, eyes bright. "Papa, Mama, look what Nate made me." She held up a wooden horse, carefully carved, sanded smooth. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Abigail said. Grace galloped around the porch, making horse sounds. Rosie appeared in the doorway, shaking her head. "She's never going to sleep tonight." "Probably not," Ethan agreed. But he didn't care. Let the child run wild. Let her be fearless. Let her grow up knowing she was loved and protected and cherished. Let all of them know that. Later that night, after Grace finally crashed from exhaustion, after Rosie and Nate climbed to the loft after the cabin fell quiet, Ethan held his wife close. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For saying yes. For staying. For building this life with me. Thank you for asking. For seeing me when no one else did. For giving me a reason to keep fighting." They lay in the darkness holding each other. Two broken people who'd somehow become whole. Who'd built something beautiful from ashes and rejection and stubborn refusal to give up. Outside, the stars came out one by one. The mountains stood dark against the sky. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. Life continued, raw, real, unforgiving. But inside the cabin there was warmth, love, safety, everything that mattered. Ethan McAllister had lost a wife and found another. Had been broken and put back together. Had learned that love wasn't about never hurting, it was about choosing to love anyway. About standing up when it mattered. About offering bread and mercy to someone who had nothing left. Abigail had been starving in the street, and now she had everything. Not because someone rescued her, but because she'd been brave enough to accept help when it was offered. Strong enough to rebuild herself. Fierce enough to love again, despite every reason not to. Together they'd created something worth fighting for. A family. A home. a legacy of second chances for anyone brave enough to take them. The story that began with a woman kneeling in the dirt ended with her standing tall, surrounded by love, proving that redemption wasn't about never falling, it was about getting back up, about believing you deserved a second chance and fighting like hell to make it count. Some people said the McAllisters were soft, that they took in too many strays, that they wasted time and money on people who didn't deserve it. Those people didn't understand. Mercy wasn't weakness, compassion wasn't foolishness, and second chances weren't charity. They were recognition that everyone deserved a shot at redemption. That one person's kindness could change everything. Ethan McAllister gave a starving woman bread and mercy when no one else would. She gave him back his life. Together they built something that would outlast them both, a place where broken people could heal, where the rejected could find acceptance, where love was stronger than judgment. And that was worth more than all the gold in Colorado Territory.